Welcome to Film Tech and Finance, where we explore the cutting-edge technology and financial strategies driving the film industry today.
So welcome back to our podcast. Today, we're stepping inside the executive office to look at how major projects move from drawing board to global markets, analyzing the capital, the craft, the cutting edge. This is Film Tech and Finance. Our guest today is a seasoned producer who understands exactly what it takes to get a project across the finish line in a rapidly changing industry. He has spent his life in and around film, and today he serves as an executive vice president of 11th Hour Productions, where he marries creative vision with financial strategy to help shape the future of independent cinema. As both a producer and senior executive, his role spans development, financing, production, oversight, and distribution, with a particular passion of design equitable financial structures that ensure cast, crew, and investors alike share in project success. Please welcome to our show, Stephen Enloe.
Hey there, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to get into this.
Thanks for being here. You're actually one of our first guests in this new endeavor of ours to get the podcast switched from just me speaking and talking about the industry to having guests like yourself. So,
amazing.
To start out, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I did a little research. It's just I saw so many things. So just tell us a little bit the history.
Yeah. Well, my name is Stephen Enloe. I help run 11th Hour Productions with Jacqueline Fabricius and Lori Enloe, who also happen to be my sister and my mother. 11th Hour Productions is the production company that we formed just a few years ago between my family and I. We had all been working in the film industry for a long time, varying amounts for each of us, but I am coming up on pretty much 20 years in the film industry now myself. I child acted, so that's a big part of that. Started acting when I was very young and did that for about 14 years. And that was really my first look at the industry. I grew up around my dad, who was a screenwriter, still is, and a producer as well as a director. And so I grew up around quite a bit of this and getting a lot of information, whether I liked it or not, really growing up around a very analytical kind of, but still very creative kind of side from the screenwriter point of view. And just my dad being even the film buff, film historian that he is. And then going into my own version or my own part of the craft, so to speak, being an actor and seeing it from those different angles and then moving forward into the seat of a producer when I was even just in my kind of late teenage years. All three of those different perspectives, I think, have given me the perspective that I do currently have. And I think have given me a lot of understanding and a lot of empathy for many of the different aspects of the film industry that I really do think are very important to hold and to give weight to properly. And they make me into the producer that I am today. I'm really grateful for those.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about projects that you have done already and projects that you're working on right now.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest projects that I'm most excited about is Treasure Trove. It's the first feature film that we completed as 11th Hour Productions, and it is really just getting finished up. We had our first screening of it. There was a private friends and family screening recently, and we had some really good reception of that. It was just nice to see it up on a big screen and to see all the different parts of it put up together. But that is currently going out for distribution, and we're likely going to be taking a direct-to-streaming approach on the distribution of that film, just for the sake of exactly what that film is and who we have in it and some of our specific marketing strategies that we have with that. But it's something we're really proud of. It's a really fun film about two best friends who are on their way out of town and end up getting sucked into this hobo treasure hunt. And it's as eclectic and fun and wacky as it sounds, but essentially it is following these two main characters as they encounter criminal ex-girlfriend, an evil older brother, a gang of hobos, a scorpion wrangler of all people. And essentially all those crazy characters are after them by the end of the film and subsequently after the treasure. So that should be out soon, actually, on a streaming service or multiple streaming services to be announced. And that's what we're probably most proud of right now and what we're really working really hard on those marketing strategies and campaigns. whether it's internally or with some of our cast members or with our PR team at Ferrara Media. But we're really excited about that. We have a lot of other projects that we've worked on. We have a few short films that have done pretty well in the festival circuit, have been awarded well and been nominated for some really big stuff. And that's actually what I think has gotten us a good amount of exposure thus far, is when I walk in places and say who I am, or I talk to people and they ask me what my company is and I say 11th Hour Productions. A lot of the time I actually get people now in the past couple of years that actually say, oh, I know of 11th Hour Productions. I've heard of you guys, which is a really nice feeling. It's not something that I think you get early on as a filmmaker. And I think it just speaks to the importance of longevity in this industry, because it's a very, very hard industry.
Yeah. Hard work pays off. Hard work pays off.
Yeah. And sticking through it is really a big part of it, because there's so many points all the way throughout it that it just seems like there's a lot of darkness, or that there's, even I think things feel like failures sometimes. Right. But, the importance of having a really good team around you, the importance of having people who want to see you win, and actually like talking with them and strategizing and figuring out where you did fail, but moving forward with, the correct steps moving forward from that, I think is important. So a little bit about, because a lot of our viewers are going to be filmmakers, especially young ones. So what would you suggest in somebody that starts now and wants to build something like your company, so they want to create a company where they do productions and they try to do the distribution. So what would be an easy way to start, first of all? And then what should they be prepared for? Let me put it that way. Yeah, I think that there's a few really key things that definitely helped me, and a few key things that I think I would probably give my younger self, some advice on. One of the things that I think helped the most was having a team that I could trust. Luckily for me, that's my family, but find a team of people that you can actually build with. You cannot do it all. Just absolutely, you cannot do it all. And if you do, you'll burn out and it'll take longer, and that's fine. I know a lot of people who can weather the storm of a burnout and it's not fun. Definitely don't recommend it. And they'll get back on the horse and they'll finish the project, or they'll keep on going, etc. But you end up walking away from that one of a few ways. You end up walking away from that a little bit more jaded, or you end up walking from that a little bit more exhausted, or you end up walking away from that and walking away from the whole thing entirely. And obviously you don't want that. So kind of like what I was talking about before of the longevity of this industry. This is not an industry where I think people should ever be looking at a get-rich-quick scheme of being here for 5 years and being done. I like to tell people that, yeah, I've been here for 20 years now, but I'm here for another 50. In 10 years, when people are asking questions about what the film industry is doing, I'm here to answer them. In 20 years, and 30 years, and 40 years, 50 years, I'm not here to build something that is going to make a bunch of money and then be done and out of here in 5 years or 10 years, realistically. I'm here to, hopefully build something that does hit some really successful metrics, whether it's monetarily or awards-wise or just audience-wise, or just creating the right pieces of art that I want to create, whatever that is for you. I think that you should be looking at it in a really, really narrow timelines in certain aspects, but lengthen your timeline for sure. Shorten your timeline for your small goals. I like to also tell people that you have much less time than you think and much more time than you think, because your goals of the things you want to hit now, go out and make them happen now. If it's going to take you a month, what would it take for it to happen in a week? If it's going to take you 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, a year, what would it require of you or of your budget or of your team, et cetera, for that to happen in 1 month? Not that you necessarily need to actually hit that, but I do think that that's a very, very useful mental exercise for you to get used to, of assessing what it would take, what it would require of you or others around you to actually make something happen quicker. Because I think that it alleviates a lot of anxiety. I saw a study recently actually that said that males 25 to 35 have some of the highest anxiety levels, specifically when they have the view that they're running out of time, which is a growing demographic of people within the world. Not to discount any other demographics' anxieties about anything or to place even more weight on it than any others, really. But they are some of the highest anxiety levels, which I think is interesting because I think if people treated their short-term goals as very, very short-term and tried to reach them as quickly as possible, I think a lot of the anxiety about the long-term goals would actually be alleviated. But you have all the time in the world to do your long-term goals. And
Nice.
I think that you should view it as your short-term goals that you're already out of time, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The best day to start a diet was yesterday or 2 years ago.
Nice.
But all you have is today.
Right.
That's all you can do.
Right. Very good advice. Thank you. Now I have one more for the film part, and then we'll go to a little bit of tech, which I like to talk about.
Awesome.
So for the film, what do you think about the new trend right now with like the vertical videos, little short clips where they promote them as they're not film. Of course, they're not film. They're just videos. Most of them are done by phone. Right. Yeah. But I mean, some are doing very good, right? And they're making money. But is that something that can be incorporated in this industry as a film, or should it be something separate? And then what's your take about that? Like, should new people focus more on that than creating long form film? Because it's a lot easier and cheaper, right? Sometimes.
I think that it really just depends on your definitions, your goals, etc. I would let's take this example. You know the film Scorsese, The Irishman? It's about 1 billion years long, right? That's a film, right? Do you know the film Madagascar? Cartoon film, right? Barely, I think, spans 75 minutes, 78 minutes or something like that. Really, really short. That's a film too. Double the length, different format completely, both films. So realistically, you have such a vast variety of what we qualify as films. Mm-hmm. So if you want to call a vertical a film or not, or if you want to call it a series or something else, like, sure, but at that point we get into semantics. You know, at the end of the day, there's an audience and there's a growing audience for it. Whether or not you want to be a part of making them or you want to be a part of consuming them, that's a completely different story all in and of itself. You know, that's do it or don't. Mm-hmm. Consume it or don't. Use your time watching them or don't. Use your time making them or don't. You know, if that's where the audience is, then that's intrinsically going to be where some of the money is. Mm-hmm. So if you want if you want an easier time getting specifically that money, then mm-hmm. I think it's your decision to then go forward and try and utilize some of the budget that's being currently allocated by some of these larger corporations to do that. And I think that storytelling is storytelling to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. You know, just because somebody's doing something on previously, if you look at Robert Rodriguez, if you looked at his earliest film being shot on, you know, really low grade equipment and kind of just being a run and gun guerrilla production, if you were to ask some of the snobbiest directors in Hollywood at the time if he was making real films, then some of them probably would have said no. I obviously, you know, if you look at his interviews and my own personal opinions and a lot of other critics' opinions and what actually ended up being taken and majorly distributed, that was a real film. So just because it's on different equipment or it's filmed in a different way or whatever, mm-hmm. I think the difference is there an actual story there? Mm-hmm. Is an artist actually getting to do what they want in a certain aspect of it? And how do you define it and what do you want your involvement of it to be?
Right. Right. Very nice. And now my other question would be for technology. And I told you earlier, and I'm going to jump on this question after you gave me pretty much the pitch. So how do you guys embrace in your company new technology? Like, for example, AI, VR, or newer ways of doing productions? Because we see a huge trend right now. People are trying to leave the traditional studio set and try to create video however they can. Some people say lower budget, but I don't know about the quality though. But how do you guys handle that? How do you guys handle AI and new equipment and software and hardware?
I think that there's a lot of different branches and kind of avenues you can go down with AI itself and technology as almost its full own separate aspect. Generative AI, I think we have to separate out, whether it's for the sake of controversy itself or outside perspectives or anything else. I think that we have to separate out generative AI. In terms of technology, not including generative AI, I think you have to embrace it. I think that you have to understand it in a certain extent. I think that, you have different films over the past handful of years. Even was it Roma, right? That was shot on a red Monstro, which is theoretically in some ways some of the highest technology we have because of the dynamic range that camera can actually capture, but it's also black and white. So is that progression or regression in technology? I don't know. But it was really, really well received. And so in terms of that kind of technology, there's also a bunch of other things. Like, you know, if you're taking a stance against technology, then like, is slow motion bad? You know, it's like the plot of Singing in the Rain, you know, like, right. Can we even have talking movies as to opposed to previously when we couldn't? And so I think that that's one aspect of it, that if you do want to actually be involved in the entertainment industry, you are intrinsically saying you do want to be involved in an industry that is made up of rule breakers, of innovators, of people who want to test the limits, and of people who may or may not have access to the most expensive technology at all times. So a piece of technology that makes the industry itself or the ability to capture commercial grade entertainment more accessible or more equitable, I think is almost always a good thing. We've lowered the barrier to entry to make really, really high quality content quite a bit from what we used to have, which I think is an amazing thing because it gives entertainers, artists, storytellers more ability to tell stories that they otherwise would not have. And not everyone has the ability to go ask their parents, ask family friends, ask, you know, a bank, ask anyone for large sums of money to make what would be classified as a traditional level of production. But that doesn't mean they can't make great films anymore. I think that leads pretty well into the discussion about generative AI, because you have films like Princess Mumbi that, you know, premiered at the Venice Film Festival this year and got obviously very, very mixed like reviews, but I think overall had some really high acclaim. And I know in watching that film myself, I saw a lot of beauty in the storytelling, just undeniably. There was a filmmaker that previously to generative AI could not have made that film. Whether or not they should have or should not have, or that should be something they are allowed to do or not, I'm not speaking on that at all, honestly. Right. But you have somebody from an economic and geographical background that otherwise could not have made that specific story. So I think if you're saying that generative AI should not be used, then I think you're intrinsically saying that that storyteller should not be able to make that film and distribute it to the world in a free market, or that I guess that a free market shouldn't exist, which at that point, like, honestly, that's a fine argument to make if that's your opinion. But that is intrinsically, I think what you're arguing is that filmmaker should not have the right to make that film, which I do think that there are good arguments for both sides of. I've heard some very, very intelligent and I think respectable people that I respect their views on humanity quite a bit, argue either way about that realistically, because you're not saying that storytellers shouldn't be able to tell the story, but you are saying that the other artists whose work were used in order to train those models, that those artists should not have had their IP effectively stolen. And I think that that's a really good argument as well.
Right. I mean, it's a long conversation. I mean, you can go deep in that in different ways. You can go, I was thinking more of the creative side of it. Because right now, I mean, we're using AI a lot of times just to create some simple stuff, but we try not to use it too much because then you're not in control of the creative, right? Because is that the problem or not? You know, is the problem human control or not? I almost think that it's really not. You know, if you use it for good, it's good, right? If you use it for bad, it's bad. I mean, that's a general rule of thumb, right?
I mean, but define that. I think really, it's like, I think that you could argue that Princess Mumbi used it for good because it actually, in and of itself, the entire film is about questioning the usage of AI and how that affects our control of humanity. And if we should actually have the level of control of the perception of humanity that we do via AI, which is funny because it does that. But I do think that, I mean, I can say this, like 11th Hour Productions specifically, just speaking for us as an umbrella of everything we make, not necessarily all as individuals, but everything underneath the roof of 11th Hour Productions, we're not using generative AI in any of our productions. So
good.
I do think that there's a lot of value that is currently being missed in the production cycle by the usage of AI. I think there's a lot of beauty that gets uncovered in a story or rather developed in certain menial tasks and developmental kind of transfers of information from this to this, or in the storyboarding process, or in that whole thing. And when you run creative through the filter of AI, you effectively homogenize a lot of aspects of the creative development process that do, I think if you're an actual like attuned person to creativity, you can find a lot of inspiration in very many tiny little things. I mean, if you track back even just major directors, if you calculate all the random little things in interviews where they're like, oh, I got the idea for this thing that ended up being the super impactful thing that I was doing while I was in the line at a grocery store, or because I spilled my coffee on my pad as I was, sketching, or et cetera, the menial tasks, what makes up being a human. A lot of those things actually do cause some really amazing inspirations. And I do think that some of that is going to be lost.
Yeah, unfortunately. We'll see the future what holds. So now with going back to the subject with film, tech, and finance, right?
Yeah.
Distribution is a big thing. A lot of creators, they just think, okay, I'll just make a movie. I'll just make a film. I'll just make a short. And then what? And then you just have a file. What do you do with it, right? What would you suggest, or how do you guys handle distribution? I mean, I understand it depends on what you have. Like, is it going to be for film? Is it going to be, but in general, how do you handle that? And what's I want to say the best way to deal with that per project?
Yeah, I think it is exactly what you just said. It's a per project basis. It's who's your audience. I think it does come back to empathy in a lot of ways of who actually cares. Who is this story for? Who's this piece of media for? I think intrinsically, depending even on like the medium, the file format itself, like whether that's a vertical or that's a long form video or that's a short form video, et cetera, I think that even determines who, maybe not determines, but it narrows down who your audience may most likely be. And so I think marrying the format of media that you actually decide to capture your story in with who your actual demographic is there let's say this is a story that's super old timey and you want to make this story that really, really, really connects with people who are between the ages of 75 and 90, what's like a really random specific demographic. You probably don't want to make that for a social media format, right?
Right.
And that's a really drastic example, but also you can get much more into the minutia of it, of like realistically, where does your audience actually like to consume that exact type of media? And so if all you can make is a short video, okay, I mean, I just had a few friends of mine were in this amazing short called Passing. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a little short about two people in New York, guy and a girl in New York who see each other across a crosswalk. And it's about their interaction of just passing by each other and then deciding to, because one of them actually looks at the other instead of like looking back at their phone, decides to actually have a conversation, and then they meet and they have a real nice little meet cute interaction. It's a beautiful story. And I think it just surpassed like 7 or 8 or 9 million views or something crazy like that. And they put it out directly on social media, like direct to social media. They made the project. And I remember I saw that, and I think I saw it like right when it got put up basically. And I like responded to my friend Carter, and I was like, man, this is so cool. This is like, I love this whole thing. And then his co-star ended up being in our table read, and she was amazing. And so it's like, what's the point of your piece of media? Is it just to connect with people? Because if that's it, yes, distribution. I'm sorry, I'm getting far off the topic of distribution, but I think it does come back down to the story. Like if they would have put it out anywhere, it would have been an amazing film that connected with a lot of people. I think it could have done well in festivals. It could have done well, whatever it is. This could be something that it proved that it connected well with people. And it was a very kind of poignant thing too, I think, where a lot of people in the demographic are at. But that's, I think, because they just focused on having a good story and then telling it well and capturing it well, and they just put it out. Your distribution, I think, is you figure out where that goes best. And so for our film currently, it's a feature film that is shot on, traditional, like a widescreen format. And we have an actress named Madison Yazak, previously Mads Lewis, some people know her as, who has, I think, collectively somewhere around 20 million followers across all of her platforms. And she's done an amazing job of actually capturing her audience and not, it sounds weird when you say capturing your audience, but capturing the attention of your audience and paying attention to actually what they want to see. And as a content creator, as an actress who was previously in, I think, a few dozen seasons of a web series, she got to know that kind of interaction well. And we were on a marketing strategy call with her, and she just immediately was like, well, there's one of these in there, right? In the story. And we were like, yeah, there is. She was like, well, what if I did one of these videos? And I was like, oh my gosh. It was something I never would have thought of as a marketer, as a producer, as somebody, but she knows her audience and she knows her interactions with them. She knows what they actually like to see and what they interact with and what intrigues them, etc. And so as filmmakers, I think there's a lot to learn within that. I have another friend, Gray, who is, I think some people view more as like an influencer content creator, but is a very talented filmmaker as well. Not to knock that side of it at all, because that's a lot of hard work that you, again, have to pay a lot of attention to your audience. But I think he made a really good film called Senior Prank. You should go and watch it. It's on Tubi. And it was an amazing little, I don't say little film, but an amazing film that, it was just, it's about this story of a senior prank. These friends and the bonding that goes into it. I don't want to talk too much about it and misquote it, but I think it's a really great film. And I think that he got that from being a content creator that pays attention to his audience, that knows who his demographic is, that knows who some of his people are, and kind of mixing that with his own creative vision. Right. And he found a distribution platform in Tubi, which I think is a fantastic platform that I think is serving him well and is serving his audience well. So
nice. Yeah. Content creators, there's one way to look at it. They can just create and then, try to distribute it, but that's a hard way because they might create something that's not for the market right now. Or they can readjust what they create for the market. So two ways to think at it.
Yeah. I think you see even other, Markiplier just made Iron Lung, right? And with his audience and all of his hard work and a lot of the things that he did, that's a full conversation in of itself. But he got major theatrical distribution for that. That is now going nationwide in, I think 3 or 4 last time I saw of the largest theater chains in America. It's crazy. Right. And he comes from the world of YouTube. But again, paid attention to his audience, made a great piece of media, paid attention to where they want to watch it, what kind of thing they want to do. And that's awesome. That's the dream as an independent filmmaker, is being able to actually have your finger on the pulse of who your audience is and then go out and actually serve those people. Again, I think it comes back to the empathy of understanding who your audience is and who you want to serve.
Okay. Perfect. One other question for you right now, and then try to pick your brains because you're very good at this. So thanks. Finance. When it comes to funding, I know a lot of everybody struggles there. How do you get people to give you money? Right, that's the most important part. Or companies, of course, or companies right now. Yeah,
and I think it's a similar thing. I think it's kind of twofold. I think that it's a similar thought process to when you're talking about distribution, you're talking about an audience. And if you're talking about an audience, you have to think about what they want. And when you think about what they want, you go back and it comes back to, I think, the story itself, the storytelling. When you're talking about the other side of it, the finance side of it, you, I think, very similarly do a very similar reverse engineering. You figure out who your actual people that you're approaching are. You figure out what they want out of it. One thing that I do consult on independent productions and with other independent producers on their financial structuring and on their financial modeling, projections, investment kind of packages or approaches, so to speak, and just speak with them about that whole process. And one of the things that I tell those people very often is investors are people too. And it's funny that you even have to say that because it's so obvious. But at the same time, so many filmmakers view this purely as an art. And if that's the case, then that's fine. But you cannot then go and lie to a bunch of people and tell them that it's a business. It's very fundamentally different things. If it's about the art, then you're trying to go to get people to give you money to make the best art. Don't worry about any of the budget. Don't worry about any of the funding. Don't worry any of it. Just go and convince people to give you money to make the best art. And that becomes what you have to convince people of, is that you are now the best person to make that art. So that's where your impetus is on. If you want to actually go and convince people to make an investment, then that's a completely different story. That is where I like to be personally, because I do think that you can, the beauty of the entertainment industry is that it's an industry, it's a business. So you have this ability to go look at the market, look at your audience, see what they want to see. And then there's this like really creative, awesome overlap of how those things marry together, of like finding, okay, if that's what I can get out of it, if that's what that audience is willing to give me back in return for it, is they're willing to watch X amount of it, or I think I can get X amount of people to watch it, whether it's in a theater, that audience wants to see this kind of content in a theater or on a streaming service or on a whatever. And I can prove that basically because that's how I got to that conclusion myself. Then I can go and I can reverse engineer that to say, okay, can I tell that if that's what that needs to be? And if my investors that I think I have the ability to go have access to are looking for X amount out of this, certain types of investors want a really small return, but they want a lot of data backing it, or they want it to be quicker or whatever it is. And other investors really want to kind of just play the lotto and hit the jackpot, and they want to swing for the fences. Others want to have more diversification. Who's your investor and what do they want out of it? And then structuring it that way and saying, okay, cool. I know my investor is like, let's take a much more likely case. There's somebody who cares in some way about me as a person. They kind of like me as a person. They want to see me thrive as a whatever. So that's a bonus. They want to see good art out in the world. So that gives me a little bit of forgiveness. This is intrinsically a risky investment. So they want something out of it. I can prove some sort of aspect through data of some sort of like viability for that. And then basically, how am I going to hit that exact multiple? Can I get that from streaming? Can I get that from theatrical? What are the costs that I would incur for if that's streaming, distribution, or what are the costs that I would incur marketing wise for if that is a theatrical release? Mm-hmm. And it's a whole model, I think. So reverse engineering it and figuring out exactly what your investors specifically want is the first step. What exactly do they want? And how can you give that to them? Like if you know this type of media, because of a bunch of comparables, like we could get into comps and how you can actually track the data and what's reliable and what's not. But let's say you have a very clear picture that like there's a statistical likelihood that you may be able to make $10 million on one given project. Do you think you can make that level of quality of a project for this budget now? And what's the marketing cost going to be on top of that? You're going to have to pay back and take out of that. And then let's say you can make the movie for 2, you can market it for another 3 or 5 or whatever, or 2, which I know sounds like a crazy number for a lot of independent filmmakers, but let's call it 2 and 2. Yeah. And you think you can make $10 million total on that. Then if your investors want a X of some sort, or 1.5X within 3 years or 4 years or 5 years or so, then maybe you have a viable project on your hands that you can reasonably, in good faith, actually go to investors. But let's say your investors only want to invest in a project if it can get them a 4X multiple because it's so risky, then you can't make that project. In good faith, you need to either tell them we have a 1 in 300 chance of making that.
Right.
And you just say, look, I think we can do it. And if you can convince them that with being honest about the like very, very bleak odds, and they're happy with that, then amazing. Go out and do that. But I think honesty, empathy, knowing who your investors are, knowing what they want out of it, and then very, very brutally honestly with you and your production team, asking yourself whether or not you actually can do that within a reasonable amount of statistical likelihood. That's what you should be doing as an independent filmmaker. Because we have to be very, very careful as independent filmmakers. If you do a bad job, you might not make another movie. That's a huge deal for me.
Right. Right.
I want to be doing this in 50 years. And if
Right.
I am not doing this responsibly, that is going to be very, very hard.
Yeah. Quality is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes far away. So now let's talk a little bit about festivals. Festivals is one way to get your job out there, and then it's one way to meet people. And I've been to many festivals in Europe, here in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one coming now next month, right? There's one in Sundance.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I heard something. That's why I didn't sing.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think?
Sorry, go ahead with your question.
Right. Yeah. So you're gonna be in Sundance this year, right? You're gonna be there as a company, or you're gonna be there as a guest, or?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. To back up, I think festivals are fantastic. I really do love them. I think that the view on them and the usefulness of festivals has slightly shifted. One thing that I think is a huge benefit to independent filmmakers is that as we move more digital as a society, the importance and the value that we place intrinsically on in-person experiences has gone up significantly. When we have an in-person experience with somebody or something or a piece of media or just a real person in front of us with a real conversation, the value of that is really, really high for us because it has just mentally, there's a higher level of scarcity within that. And so the usefulness of being present at a festival, I think, has gone up significantly. I will say that the statistics of truly independent films finding preferable distribution deals through festivals, excluding markets, but festivals, has gone down every single year for the past handful of years. So if your goal is to get your film into festivals in order to find a financially viable distribution deal, then statistically you're much less likely to do that now than you were previously. So all opinions aside, a lot of people kind of preach that the sky is falling with festivals and they're useless or they're this or they're that. I fully disagree with those people. I think this statistically, if you're only looking at one set of statistics and that one set of statistics being financially viable distribution deals, then yes, I think that you can't argue with that metric. But if you look at other societal metrics of people valuing in-person interactions more, people having a draw towards in-person immersive experiences more, to generally disruptive experiences and experiential kind of places, that is all trending massively upward. Whether you're talking about live sports or you're talking about music festivals or you're talking about film festivals, people's actual view, interaction, and value of those has actually just gone up societally massively. So I think that being present at festivals is really, really important, which is why 11th Hour is doing a huge kind of set of activations. So 11th Hour Productions is holding a set of events in Park City this year on Main Street during the Sundance Film Festival. And we're holding wellness mornings, coffee hours, panels, fireside chats, speakers, cocktail hours, private parties, etc., all at our venue that we have that's just 2 doors up from the Egyptian Theater on Main Street in Park City for the entire weekend one during Sundance Film Festival. And so we have a lot going on there Friday morning through Monday night. And we believe in presence at festivals. We believe in creating disruptive, immersive, experiential experiences that are in the presence of the other disruptors, the other innovators, the other independent filmmakers who are invested in changing and innovating the industry. And that's what we're doing. We're really focused on all of our programming, providing a space for independent filmmakers to have really tangible, accessible, actionable kind of conversations so that they can actually go out into the world with these really tangible action items and really innovative ideas that they get to talk with other independent filmmakers who maybe have done it before, or maybe are on a panel actually, or even just the people that are sitting next to them who are interested in the same kind of conversations about distribution, finance, marketing, about different minorities and different kind of marginalized voices in filmmaking, different avenues of getting all these different aspects of the film industry done and doing them creatively and treating people well while doing it. And that's kind of what all of our programming is focused towards. Is, I think, if I could say one last thing about film festivals, realistically, I do love film festivals, and I love a lot of the programming that I've been to at Sundance, at Cannes, at a bunch of other festivals. But one thing that I think sometimes lacks from the conversations, this kind of tangible aspect of where do we go from here? And sometimes the conversation is a bit disconnected from the independent world. A lot of the time you get this split within a panel or a fireside chat or a conversation that you're either speaking with somebody who is so guerrilla and so independent that they are talking about it like, just get whatever money you can, crowdfund however you can, and just go out there and guerrilla shoot. Don't worry about permits. Don't worry about permissions. Just make it happen and make the best piece of art that you can. And the other side of the coin is, well, you need to be able to pitch this to an executive at a studio, and it needs to make sense for them within their mandates and within what they're seeing within the data. And both sides of that coin, I think, are kind of, they're not giving a chance for the people who want to split the difference of that to have any sort of voice or understanding or advice, because I think that there are a lot of independent filmmakers that do want to make real, amazing art that is also financially and commercially viable, that gets out to maybe not a audience that's going to hit 2,500 or 3,500 screens on, major theatrical release, but maybe could have a limited theatrical release, or could very respectively have a very amazing run at a digital release, whether that's straight to a Netflix or an SVOD of that sort, or if it's a more grassroots distribution strategy of going to TVOD first and seeing what you can get from rentals and purchases, and then shifting over to an AVOD and trying to prove your audience, and then maybe getting picked up by an SVOD and that kind of stretch that a lot of independent distributors like to outline. But either way, I think that is a missing piece for a lot of panels and firesides and speakers and programming at independent festivals. And that's exactly what we plan to hit, is not just the people who want to guerrilla make a film, which I respect a bunch and I love, but also not the people who necessarily want to wait for a studio to give them permission to do something.
Right.
I want to speak and create a place for conversation to be had to independent filmmakers who want to actually go out, responsibly structure a project, responsibly develop that project that is going to be a great piece of art that is going to reach a good audience, fundraise for it, produce it, make sure that it gets out there correctly, and then market it. I want to talk to those people. Those are the independent filmmakers who I think are really, really going to have an amazing run in the next 5 to 10 years. So a lot of opportunity there.
Perfect. So let me ask you this. Besides Sundance, which I'm sure is going to be fun and it's going to be great. I mean, what you just described is just amazing.
Thank you.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you and talk to you about all this, website, is that or any other way we can get a hold of you? Or I mean, on the show we're going to have information about your company and everything. But they just shoot you an email or they go on your website and.
Yeah, no, I think that, I'll make sure that you guys have my information contact wise for the show as well. But yeah, our website has our contact info in there as well. Our social media, which is mostly Instagram, but our website and our social media are definitely the easiest ways to contact us. And that'll honestly probably go either directly to me or one of my other partners that will be able to point it to me or to one of them, answer any questions anyone has.
Perfect. I think we covered everything. I mean, we talked about the whole industry, everything. And I'm sure if we had stayed here, we could have talked for another 4 or 5 hours.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you very much for your time. Really nice. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to this, because we can edit at the end. Anything else, like your future plans or anything like you're working on specific now besides Sundance, after Sundance? Are you working on something specific, like a specific project, specific movie, or what we just covered earlier?
Yeah, I think that for us, the big wrap ups for where we're at right now in the beginning of, I guess, Q1 of 2026 are the release of Treasure Trove. That's a really big deal for us right now. This lounge, the 11th Hour Lodge in Park City during Sundance this year. And moving forward, we're going to be doing similar experiential kind of immersive venue spaces at other festivals as well. We're looking at Cannes, we're looking at TIFF, and a couple of the other ones. Really, really like to be present at major markets specifically. That's why I love Cannes. But yeah, that's really it for us right now. We have a few other films that are in development currently, but in terms of public view of things, those are definitely the most pressing for us.
Sounds interesting. Very interesting. And I'm sure you're very busy with it. It's not a small thing. I mean, I know you're working with it, so you probably think like, yeah, that's it. But that's not just it. That's a lot of stuff. And it's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because you go besides a production company that just produces. I mean, you interact and you want to create a space, as you said. That's just amazing. So keep us posted on everything, how you do.
Mm-hmm.
If we can, upload it and promote it, we will do it. And then, before big events, we can jump in. It's going to be, a little bit different. The setup is going to be a lot more organized right now, but we're going to get it. We can promote events before or during or after or whatever. We can even visit events.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to Cannes many times because I used to be based in Europe. So,
will you be at Sundance or anything this year by chance?
I might.
For a lot of people, it's TBD. So
yeah. I don't go every time, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. It's because it's the beginning of Q1, and we're doing a lot of new things too. We're creating something also. So
yeah. No, I do have one last question.
Sure.
I don't know if it's similar questions for some of the other guests or anything, but I guess have you heard any specifically very differing opinions of kind of what we talked about? I'm always curious to hear about what other.
So this is what struck me a little bit because that's the reason I asked about AI. Everybody was focused on AI and everybody was kind of scared. So that's why I asked you. I want to get your opinion too. There's different people. I mean, I talked this morning with a gentleman outside the US. I mean, the same concept as you talked about, but they're a little bit afraid that the old traditional studio system is gone and they're trying to figure out like where to go or what to do. But again, as I said, embracing a new era, a new technology doesn't mean that the old one should die, right? They can adjust. That's the way I see it. I mean, you see now big studios are open to smaller jobs too, right? That's one good thing. Where in the past it was like, they had to have a huge production to get in a big studio, right? And that's good. But, and then they're afraid about social media. That's what kills them. They're afraid that, a kid with an iPhone, disrupts their business, which, as you said earlier, and I think you're correct, and I'm on the same page with you, is that's a different market. That's something completely different. I mean, as you say, if you create a long form movie for the theater, well, you don't care if, Instagram doesn't, you don't hit 8 million views on Instagram because that's not your audience. You care about tickets on the theater, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that answered your question, but the market's right now a little bit, it's a little bit, fluid. A lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people, new things are coming. Technology is getting cheaper. It's more affordable, I would say. I mean, you can buy very, very good cameras, not professional cameras, very affordable. I mean, that's...
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I appreciate that. No, it's always interesting hearing what other filmmakers and other people are putting out there. I would say if I could honestly end with something,
sure.
Something that I do want to be out there, honestly, is I think because of everything that you just said, I think that there's never been a better time to be an independent filmmaker, truthfully, because I don't see all these things aligning at the same time. Any other time in history, there's more access to high quality equipment than we've ever had in the past. There's more access to a skilled workforce that currently doesn't have work, which is obviously a bad thing in a lot of aspects, but for an independent filmmaker means there's more access to that skilled workforce. There's more independently held wealth than there ever has been in the past, which means that there's more people to actually go and approach for film. And there's more content hours being watched for whatever kind of type of content you're talking about. There's actual higher consumption of media than there ever has been. And on top of all of that, there's never been as many avenues of reaching those audiences for free, literally for free. Or for different paid platforms, but there's never been all of those things in as high levels as we currently have. There sure as heck has never been those all at this level all at the same time. So if you mix all of those into one thing, I don't think that has ever existed in the past. And I don't even think that those will all exist in the same way in the future, past the next, whatever you want to call it, 5 to 10 years. But I think that we do somewhat have a bit of a golden window if we if we're able to actually take advantage of the current fragmentation of what's going on with the traditional studio system. I think that independent filmmakers have an amazing opportunity in front of them to actually jeopardize on the fact that they're all having to scramble because their business models are having to shift and they cannot shift quickly, whereas an independent filmmaker really can.
Perfect. Okay, thanks for your time. Thanks for
Thank you.
spending time with us, and we'll keep you posted about the show, and then you keep us updated about your stuff. I'm sure you're going to create amazing things in the future.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on Film Tech and Finance. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more insights and updates.